everybody, and welcome to episode 16, Sweet 16 of the Cosmic Force. My name is Tyler Reganti, and tonight we have another artist spotlight episode featuring Will Sliney. We'll talk about the titles he's been a part of, some of our favorite art of Will's. Plus, we have new High Republic news, as well as exciting things happening in this week's releases, which we'll discuss in the weekly pull list. But first, let's check in with the rest of the team here, and we are going to start with Emma. And I believe, Emma, you were saying it's getting close to be semester time, right?
That's correct. Yes, I am in major purchasing mode for my condo. So soon, I think that my Cosmic Force background is definitely not going to look like this, but who knows when? Probably early September. So probably won't have as many Star Wars books. It'll probably be a little bit more plain, but you know what? School's important. Stay in school, kids.
Yes, it is very important to do that. I don't miss those times. I had good times in college, but I'm glad that it's
it can be stressful for sure. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Caleb, I see the nice little bow tie there.
Exactly.
I'm liking it.
You know, I decided to go a little more pastel here, a little more neutral. It is the start of my vacation here, so I'm going to be off from work for a little bit. So I'm kicking it up. I'm in shorts. Life is very, very good now.
That is awesome. You said Nashville for
correct.
For your vacation, correct?
Music City. Sorry, let me Nashville.
Dude, Timothy's gonna come down and slap the crap out of you.
He should. That was pretty bad. I deserve that.
Well, I'm glad we were able to kick off your vacation by hanging out with us tonight. And then our last member of the team, our arguably most important member of the team, our producer, Jacob. You were also in ramp up for semester mode, right?
Yes, I am. I was telling you guys about my thrilling list of school books, including contracts and civil procedure and torts. What are torts? I'll tell you in like 3 months.
Isn't a tort is a dessert, right? I hope so.
God, I wish.
It's like a necklace or thing.
Yeah, no, I'm prepping for school, which means I've noticed my bookcase is very empty behind me. I just like threw up random single issues, so it's not completely empty right now because everything's in a box next to me right now, or mini boxes, I suppose. Yeah,
both of you are moving sometime in the next like month, right?
Yes, it's totally not stressful at all.
A week and a half.
Oh my gosh, I don't miss that either.
Great.
All right. Well, if you are joining us for the very first time, welcome. We actually do talk about more fun things than torts and law reform. We actually talk about Star Wars because we are a Star Wars comics podcast that broadcasts live right here on youtube.com/Utini every Wednesday night at 8:00. If you can't join us live, that's okay. Our videos are available on this channel at all times whenever you want to watch them. So be sure to subscribe so you can know when they come out. We're also on all of your favorite podcasting platforms around the globe. So be sure to check us out on one of those platforms, along with the rest of the Utini Podcast Network. I believe my notes here say a dozen shows, but sometimes I feel like we're over that. There's a lot of shows in the Utini Podcast Network. We do an amazing job of providing some great content. So we encourage you to check out the rest of the Utini Podcast Network. We encourage you to go to our Discord channel at utini.com/Discord with more than 1,000 members with dozens of channels to choose from. My goodness, we had some fun conversations this week, especially in the Rise of Storm or the Rising Storm channel. That got deep. And for those of you that were there, it was a lot of fun. For those of you that weren't there, you really need to jump in there and join in that conversation because it's a lot of fun. If you want to say, if you like what you see and you want to say thank you, head over to our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Utini, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Utini Podcast Network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community activities. So now we actually have, before we get into the weekly pull list, we actually have some news this week, some fun stuff. Jacob, why don't you kick off the first part of the news there with a new excerpt for an upcoming comic series?
Yeah, so we have the Monster of Temple Peak IDW miniseries by Kevin Scott that's coming out this fall. It's going to feature a story with Ty York. Sort of not. He didn't. He said it wasn't quite an origin story, but it will take place before the Rising Storm. But just a little story about her, and we got an excerpt of that today over on StarWars.com, so you can go check that out. All I know is she fights a Gundark, so I guess maybe Anakin could have helped her out there. Yeah, so I'm excited to read this. It's been it was announced quite a while ago by now, but it's gonna be cool to see something a little different for High Republic comics.
And I'm excited to see IDW expanding their High Republic influence there, because the High Republic Adventures, if you guys are sleeping on it, you guys need to pick that up. That is a really, really amazing book.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No.
I like how the art style. I mean, from what we've seen in this excerpt from Monster of Temple Peak, it looks like the art style is going to be a bit different than High Republic Adventures, and I'm thrilled about that. So it looks really, really nice.
Yeah. Exactly. This is written by the love of our show, Kevin Scott, and it's just almost so sad how little sleep he must be getting.
Yes,
he's a busy man.
He's been pretty busy. Destroying our dreams and hopes for all of our favorite characters so far in the High Republic. So what else? Our next news item, Caleb, why don't you go ahead and tell us about the next piece of news?
That's coming. That if you ever go to the website, it's right there. It's Forlom and Zuxus. That's another preview that was put out there. The more of the War of the Bounty Hunters, as you kind of see the duo there seems to be feuding against each other, because if you read the comics, Boba Fett kind of wrecked him a little bit. Not maybe a bit of spoiler, but yes, Boba Fett likes to win his fights. So some real exciting things going on there. This one is written by the other friend of the show, Daniel Jose Older, and didn't he do the short story in a certain point of view on them from the Empire Strikes Back? So it's fun when a author gets to do the same character multiple different times, so it's exciting. This looks like it's going to be another big, may not step in the War of Bounty Hunters, but it's going to be another great issue here.
And if you want
to, dare I say, highlight of the Bounty Hunter comic was that arc that included Forlom and Zuckuss?
Probably, yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah, no, if you want to hear more about Daniel Jose Older and him writing that comic, Eric and I actually talked with him about it in our interview. Was it 2 or 3 weeks ago now?
About 3 weeks ago, yeah.
So, yeah. But that's not all. We still have more news.
More news. My goodness. So, the High Republic was at Comic-Con at home. And we got a new comic announced. It's called Eye of the Storm, which is a 2-part miniseries from Charles Soule, and it's going to come out in January. It's going to be 2 30-page issues, and we have a quote here. It says, "He's absolutely terrifying. He's charming in a way. You'll meet him, and he'll talk to you, and you'll give a good time. He'll give you a good time." I think we typed that wrong. That's okay.
Yeah, I definitely typed that wrong.
That's okay. Either way, it sounds like it's going to be amazing. And anything from Charles Soule is amazing. Martian Rowe, he's a character that I know that everybody's been wanting more backstory on, including myself. So when I heard that we were going to get his origin story basically in a short form comic, like, what an amazing way to tell that story rather than sort of flashing back in books. I like the visual medium of it, and I know everybody else does too, since hot Martian or whatever the hashtag is.
Martian hose.
Yeah, Martian hose.
Martian hose. Yes, exactly. That's right.
No, it like, I've only read the first book of the the Life to Jedi, and Martian had a really empowering presence here, and I love it when a series like if you just want to read the novels, that's great. So you don't have to you don't necessarily have to explore every character's backstory to the fullest extreme to get a good story. But for those who want it, for his fangirls out there, they can really dive into this and get really into him and the relationship. I had to look this up with Asgar Rowe. That's such a great name, his father. So I'm excited, it's a great time to be in Star Wars, especially in the expanded universe that they have rolling out. So no, the Martian Row
We're not doing this.
stories.
No.
Gotta show up Eric sometimes.
Well, I was gonna say we'll leave that to Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
he's definitely, if there's one non-Jedi character that I think everybody wants to hear more about, it's definitely Martian Row. So, all right, now we move on to our weekly pull list, and we've got a number of interesting comics out this week, and we do have one little quick announcement that we want to remind everybody about. So, Jacob, what do we have in store this week?
Yeah. Do we want to do the announcement first, or we want to?
Let's do the announcement first,
Okay,
and then
plant the seed.
Yeah, we have just a reminder. We have a great day for comic book fans coming up, and that is Free Comic Book Day. Free Comic Book Day is an annual tradition. If you're like a music fan, you might know Record Store Day. It's similar. It's just kind of driving people to get out to their local store and support them. So a number of publishers will put out free books. Sometimes they're previews, sometimes they're actual like independent stories. And there are 2 Star Wars things you're going to want to look out for. One is this High Republic Adventures single issue with Ram Jamorum, Zine, and Lula. Got her name there for a second. And then also there is a here it is, a High Republic Edge of Balance and Guardians of the Will preview. So yeah, it's been moved to August because of the pandemic. So it'll be the 14th. It's a Saturday. So yeah, definitely try and check that out if you can. You can look up, you can go to the website freecomicbookday.com and find a store that participates near you. Just type in your zip code. Usually, these books, they are literally free. There might be some limits on how many you can take. I would highly encourage you, if you're going to go in, just buy something. It doesn't have to, you don't have to buy, $50 worth of books. Just, maybe go in the back issues, find something that looks interesting to you, pick it up, buy it. And that way you're not just going there for the free stuff.
Usually comic book stores will also run sales. Like I actually had this ad for my comic book store, and they're running all comics for 50% off that day, as well as 25% off figures, statues, and graphic novels. So that's something that, I mean, it might not be something that big, but most comic book stores will run some sort of special there as well. So definitely encourage you guys to safely visit your local comic book stores and make sure you support those small businesses. So
yeah,
we're attempting to do our part.
Right. And another thing is sometimes you'll even see creators there. Like there's one time I was in college, I just went to a different comic book store than I normally went to, and there's like one of the free comic book issues that year was a Street Fighter book, and the artist for the Street Fighter book was just at this random small town comic book store signing books. And I'm like, well, while I'm here, I might as well get it. It's still free, so yeah, just check it out. Find your local store and give them a little support. Even if you're normally a digital person, this is a great time to get out to your local store. But with that, we can head into our weekly polls. So, of course, number 1 off the bat, we have the High Republic number 7, Heart of the Drinkier, Chapter 2 of Sith and Shadows, written by Kevin Scott, pencils by Georges Gianti, the cover by Phil Noto, inker is Carl Story, colorist Annalisa Leone, and letterer Ariana Mayer. And I also want to take a quick second to shout out the coolest variant cover we've gotten so far, and that's the Keeve Trennis action figure one.
They're taunting us.
If only it was real.
If only we had real High Republic toys.
If only. Take my money. So excited. But another great issue for the High Republic here. Then we also had Star Wars number 15, War of the Bounty Hunters, Friends and Enemies, written by Charles Soule. Pencils by Ramon Rosales, cover by Carlo Pagulayan. The colorist is Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters from Clayton Cowles. And then lastly, we had Star Wars Adventures number 7, Tales of Villainy, written by Sam Maggs and Landry Q. Walker, with pencils by Liana Congas and Nick Brokenshire. So all of the links, except for Star Wars Adventures, because I forgot to get that one, are down in the description below. Some great issues today. High Republic number 7, fantastic. Star Wars 15, I think it was pretty good. It was a fun issue. I want to give some advice if people are trying to get the full story for War of the Bounty Hunters, but also have a budget. I think this is a skippable one. It really is very separate from the main story going on, but it's still fun on its own.
Like it's
Yeah, I mean, there's some fun like little reveals in there. Some fun callbacks to some High Republic things, if you know what I mean. So yeah, some really solid comics all around. Like I highly recommend reading the High Republic #7 like ASAP. There was some crazy stuff happening,
And for
and you want to
collectors
find
out
out for
there,
yourself for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for collectors out there, we do have a first appearance of some characters in that book. So
yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah. I was talking about this in Discord and Slack, but I did make the decision to on a whim go to the Raleigh Comic-Con tomorrow.
Yes,
because
you were talking about
nice.
that.
Yeah, well, first off, John Jackson Miller's there, and I can get my Old Republic omnibus sign there.
Oh, sweet.
But also,
Your tome.
my tome, and I mean, I'll take a new Don because when in Rome. The guest artist, Georges Gianti, for this issue, which, like we said, has a first appearance of a character that could be a big deal, is at this as well. So I figured, why not get him to sign this issue? So I'm excited.
That's awesome.
I also realized today that I bought 3 copies of this issue because I have these 2, and I also got the Mike Mayhew variant. So
Yes.
whoops.
Yeah, oopsies.
It happens.
All right.
Oops, all High
We're gonna-
Republic.
Yeah. Always there. You can never have too much High Republic. So, all right, we're gonna move on to what we are loving this week, and my art of the week here. Like I said last week, I have started getting into the 2015 main title run, and I moved on to trade paperback number 2, and so this comes from issue number 7.
Oh,
we've
yeah.
all seen this before. It's our the one, the only Obi-Wan Kenobi. The penciler and inker is Simone Bianchi, and the colorist is Justin Ponzer. It's a great page. It's a powerful page. It's a great story. I loved checking in with and seeing this element of a story that we haven't really seen before. So yeah, that's what is my art of the week. Emma, what do you have for us this week?
Yeah, so gee, Jacob, I wonder why are we sharing the screen together right now? That's so weird.
Yeah, so we all like to share our individual arts of the week, but Emma sent me a DM yesterday with hers, and it just so happened to be the one that I had also selected for this week. So I figured, well, first I was like, don't worry about it, I'll find another one. And I messaged Emma later today being like, look, I'm feeling really lazy. I'm doing a lot of work putting together this show. Let's just do it together. So,
absolutely. And I mean, first of all, what are the chances of this happening? Out of the hundreds of issues, hundreds of Star Wars things that we could possibly pick from, and we picked the exact same page from the exact same issue.
And the crazy thing is this is I've been pre-selecting mine for a while, and this was the last one. But I actually I just checked. I picked this over 2 weeks ago.
No way, really?
So he's totally pulling rank on you right now.
Actually, wait, no.
Okay,
sorry.
so this is crazy. And by the way, behind the scenes here, we don't talk about what our arts of the week are going to be. So this was 100% random.
Yep.
Not even a joke, though it's extremely funny and quite random. But I mean, honestly, of course we picked this as our art of the week. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so cool with these. I think these were monuments to some old Mon Calamari. Oh my god, it's ghostly and creepy.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
I actually read that issue earlier this week myself, so I guess we're all on the same way.
What if you picked it too? That would have been crazy.
Thankfully, I
Everyone
picked
but
out my
Tyler.
ones a few weeks in advance, like Jacob does. So maybe in 2 weeks, I'll pick this one again.
Yeah, but so this was from the Journey to Rise of Skywalker Allegiance issue number 2 with art by Luke Ross, who is the War of the Bounty Hunters artist right now, and colors by Lee Lowridge. So yeah, amazing. Yeah, I think it was I forget. Is this Rey or is this Leia in this?
It's Leia returning the spirit, not the body because they couldn't find it, of Admiral Akbar.
Akbar, yeah. So great, yeah. So beautiful. Yeah. I as funny as it is, I think it's hilarious that we both came to this amazing panel.
Absolutely.
All right, Caleb, what do you have for us this week?
Let me get that pulled up here. I say I'm doing actually anything. There it is. Yes. Continuing on from last week's debate. This one comes from the 77 Star Wars. This was from issue number 22 by Carmine Infantino and Bob Wayachek, the artwork there. And like, this is just kind of like an exemplary of what the 77 issue was really good at, this whole run. You can see Han Solo fighting essentially in a gladiatorial combat in 0G. So if you ever read Ender's Game or saw the movie, you get that like zero gravity sort of action sort of thing. And for being a space opera, like space sort of thing, gravity, weightlessness, nothing ever like that ever comes into play with the Star Wars universe. So it's fun to see these like classic sci-fi tropes. And if you can see deep in the background, there's a Chewbacca there also fighting away as it's winner take all, only one man left standing. So great little like action set piece for Han Solo with his silvery buckler and his tiny little blaster pistol. Great part here. So if you have any inkling for the 77 series, read through to at least that part. Great
Wes
fun.
in the chat says, "Holy crap, that's Han Solo! Such a strong jaw."
I mentioned it last time. Han Solo is like super confident and like really good at his job in this thing. Like he's like Han Solo is not a bumbling buffoon as he has often made.
It's no Dark Empire Leia jaw. I will say that.
I mean, come on. Like, if there's anything that we can say about the older comics in the 70s and 80s, it's that you had to be buff. So
That's true.
Absolutely, He-Man prototype. So yeah, that was my art of the week from the 77. Looks like we got a community submission, right?
We do, and we have history in the making here.
It's a hat trick. It's 3 in a row from the same person, Mr. Moonflyer. Thanks you again for your submission over our Discord page. This one comes from Afra issue number 33, art by Wilton Santos, and colors by Chris O'Halloran. This is just a really interesting sort of thing. I think this is setting up like the Jedi sniper rifle, right?
Yeah, it's from Unspeakable Rebel Super Weapon.
That's the one. Yeah. So essentially, when I was reading this, like, is that the same one from Dark Lord of the Sith? Like that same weapon there?
No, Dark Lord of the Sith was just like it was just like a lightsaber rifle. This is like a galactic, like long distance lightsaber rifle that I think I want to say like fires lightsabers or something weird like that.
I think something like that. Like it burns out lightsabers like immediately from it. And that was as Moonflyer pointed out, there's a really fun dynamic of like the past, of showing what the weapon was like, Afra in the current date, and then flashing back to Afra's youth talking to her mother. So there's like a lot going on in this panel. Some really great space shots, kind of sepia tone past. Really good pick here. So that's why you're going to do it, and let's see if we can keep this chain up. Or better yet, let's see if we can get someone else in the community to submit your artwork via our Twitter, via our Discord page. Reach out to us. We want to submit and list your artwork.
Yeah, three weeks in a row is pretty impressive, and hopefully we've got to have somebody challenge him next week. So, all right, this is the part of the show where we normally talk about what we're reading, and I know that we've got the Rising Storm that people are finishing, we've got Out of the Shadows that people are getting into, we've got all the new comics that are out. So rather than have all of us say that 3 or 4 times over, I think we can all pretty much agree that that's what we're all reading. But is there anybody that's reading something a little bit different than that now, or is we pretty much all reading the same thing?
Yeah, I've picked up from a certain point of view the episode 4, essentially the compilation of all the short stories, and that's a really fun read. Like you have to almost like, if you don't know what it is, essentially they contracted out like 20-30 different authors to each write little short stories about characters who kind of appear in the fringe of episode 4, and you get some really fun like dynamics there. And I just finished the Daniel Halsey older one, which was a hilarious romp about the poor stormtroopers who got mind controlled. There's a really good one by I forgot the name, but essentially speaking of Imperial incompetence, the poor guy who decided not to blow up the escape pod as it was escaping is like trying to find whatever archaic like paperwork he can grab to save his sorry skin.
That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was like the Dark Sith of paperwork. That was a really good one. So like if you want to see a lot of different people's voices and ways of talking about Star Wars, that's a great one there. So go pick it up, read through a couple stories. Don't try to binge it through, but after I read this, I want to watch episode 4 again to see all like the little side characters there.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the one from Empire Strikes Back was like even better. I didn't think it could get any better than the first one. It was so good. And like, speaking of incompetent Imperials, like there was a story about like the Imperial officer that saw something on the probe droid from Hoth, but like didn't do anything about it.
Right.
I love those stories because they make me feel so nervous inside.
Well, that wasn't that one, the one that where like she maliciously like deletes it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
She's, like,
she got so proud.
A little bit.
Yeah, she was so proud of what she was able to find, and then she realizes what was happening, and then she ended up deleting it. Yeah, it was a great story.
So, if you like short stories, which you obviously do because you're here for comics, give that a try.
All right. Well, we are going to take a short break, and then when we come back at the other side of this merch ad, we are going to talk Will Sliney. So we will be right back. All right, we are back. And like I said at the top of the show, this week's episode is sort of an artist spotlight. You know, the authors and the writers of the Star Wars expanded universe, they get a lot of attention, and we as a comic show, comics are an art, visual medium, and we want to take some time every once in a while to kind of give the artists their moment in the sun. And we've done that before with with Phil Noto, and this week it is Will Sliney. He has done quite a bit of work both in Star Wars and outside of Star Wars. He's actually born in Cork County, Ireland, and got his start doing art for the Clone Wars comic, UK magazine, and with Marvel's Spider-Man 2099 comic book. He actually also has his own YouTube channel. He hasn't actually posted on it in a little bit, but his YouTube channel has how to draw videos in which he will sit there. It used to be on, I believe, on his Twitch. But he would sit there and he'll actually show you how he draws some of his most memorable characters. He's got Spider-Man in there for us Star Wars fans. He's got Mando and Grogu and Kylo Ren, and even all-time favorite characters like Mario. So if you are an aspiring artist, or you would just kind of want to see, how the sausage is made, I really encourage you to watch some of his videos. I had some of his videos up yesterday and earlier this week while I was doing some research on him, and they were entertaining because he talks about his process and his history. So it's a really, really fun time. He also streams his drawing on Twitch. There's a note on here that Hell to Pay with Charles Soule. I guess, is he doing this with Charles Soule?
Yeah. So I've seen stream, I think once or twice. There was one time he was like on with Charles doing like some High Republic drawings. I remember he like
I remember that was fun.
Loden and Bell and maybe one or two other characters, but then him and Charles Soule are doing a creator-owned comic, so it's like not a big published one, called Hell to Pay, and I haven't followed it since then, but at least the idea was that they were going to like create it live. So like I think the scripts were mostly kind of done off stream, but like Will would be like drawing panels and talking to people live for like the actual comic. So
that's kind of a really neat idea.
Yeah, it is like something new, something different. So I thought it was pretty interesting. I definitely would like to check that out when it's, I don't know, when it's somewhat closer to being done. It's like there's a few comics like that, like Saga, where it's like I know I need to read this, but I kind of want to wait for it to be kind of complete.
I find it really amazing how effortless, not just him, just in general. When I've watched comic book artists draw, like it comes so easy to them, and I can't draw a stick figure. So to have them just be able to have a conversation with us as the audience as they're drawing, I'm in awe of their talent. And Will has definitely graced our universe with quite a bit of work. Caleb, you've got kind of a rundown here of some of his works.
Yeah, kind of a deluge, and once he stepped on the scene, he was it for a while. Like he did the Dr. Aphra Annual #1. Then he kind of moved on to the Beckett one shot, the prelude to Han Solo. And then he did the Han Solo, like Star Wars comic adaptation. So he like did Beckett, and immediately the next month the Solo adaptation came out. If you've ever been to the theme park, he did the Galaxy's Edge artwork for that one. So that's a lot of fun there. Even if you don't go to Disneyland, it's still kind of a hodgepodge, lots of little stories going off, which I think they actually recently brought back some of those characters in like I think a recent Star Wars annual. And then no, it's the Resistance, the Resistance one that your artwork came from.
Oh.
Allegiance.
Yeah, Allegiance. Yeah, they showed like the characters from Galaxy Edge showed up in Star Wars Allegiance.
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar now. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Exactly. See, it's all one universe, kids. And then he also did Age of Rebellion, Princess Leia, and most importantly of all, kind of like the crown jewel of his collection, the Rise of Kylo Ren. That's almost probably like
Honor Foundational 5 or something.
Exactly. That like if in like not to like curse or anything, he'll have to try very hard to do something to surpass what was done with the Rise of Kylo Ren.
The art really in that one was just like it made the writing even better. It made the story even better because some artists just have like a way of assisting the telling of the story with their art, and he certainly has that ability.
Yeah, that actually is an amazing segue into some of his art styles. He doesn't have a definitive art style the way that Phil Noto does, but I don't say that in a negative way. His art is very, it's not exaggerated, it's not cartoonish, it looks like a comic, but it doesn't look overly kiddie or overly out of this world. It's just it's a very realistic look. And the colors that he uses are always from my untrained eye, they're always well brightly lit, and the mood is right, but it's a very good but not overbearing sort of way that he kind of uses his art.
Yeah, I think sometimes artists can sort of make things look too realistic sometimes, if that makes sense. Like almost photorealistic. I don't need something to be photorealistic in my comics. And I think Will Sliney he strikes a good balance between it being looking like exactly like art and looking exactly like what you would see in a movie or a photo. And so I appreciate that style, because I can certainly think of like a couple artists that do things a little bit too realistically for my taste.
Exactly. Like his faces have a lot of emotion behind them, but they're not exaggerated to an extreme like manga panels, like things like that, nor are they is he taking and scanning in like photographs from magazines. There's a lot of like depth that's in there, and he does a really good job of expanding on that. So he also has good like action scenes, splash scenes. Like it's again, it's not like he's not out there doing like something that you would say, aha, this is going to be out of the wild or something crazy, but he does a really solid job all the way through all of his things. We just had like a good one from Kira, and here he is with a Lando kind of splash page, and just like that shot of Lando walking down the Millennium Falcon, that's a great page. Like he can consistently put that out every single issue, and that's what makes him a great artist.
Yeah, and I honestly, like, looking at these last two panels I've shown up on the slideshow here, he uses like backlighting very well. Like here, Lando is sort of framed in the blue, and Kira with the gold. Like I like how it makes the character or whatever the focus of the panel is. It makes it really pop. And I think that's important, especially if a page is like kind of busy or whatever. And I always appreciate when artists can sort of help move our eye towards where they want it to.
Yeah, here's another great one, I think, with the lighting, just the campfire scene.
Right, absolutely.
Right before the heist on
yes.
Oh jeez, started with the V.
Vandor.
Vandor. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. So it's another great image. Something we talked about with Phil Noto, where he had a few panels that really utilized light and color very well. I think this is one that stuck out pretty well.
Yeah, you go from the top of that page where all you see is the fire,
right?
And then you flip the script, and the way that fire lights up all of the characters is really, really amazing contrast right there.
Yeah, he's done some great work. I think. Yeah, his characters are very strong because it's honestly probably the hardest. I'm not an artist. I would say it's probably the hardest thing to get right. And I think he does a great job with that. I think his art, like you guys were saying, it's not like nothing crazy, nothing over the top. I think it just works. It blends well. It assists with the script and doesn't get in the way. That's not to say it's not good. It's technically, of course, very strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing stuff for Star Wars all the time. But
exactly.
It's understated maybe at times.
There are books where the story takes precedence. There are books where the art takes precedence. I think every time that I've seen a Will Sliney book, it's a very good marriage between the two, and it's a very great way to blend a great story and use the art, his artwork, to help tell that story without it overpowering the words that are written.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, with Star Wars as well, I mean, you're drawing some of the most classic characters in cinema at times. He's drawing Darth Maul, Lando Calrissian, Han Solo. These are different versions of the characters, but still, and Star Wars fans are very picky, with how their favorite characters are depicted. And I think he does a great job at sort of throwing his own spin on a character that we know and love, but at the same time, we know who it is, and we know that he's done right from Will.
Yeah, going back to something Tyler said was about how it really aids the story. I think this next one right here, I thought this was really beautiful, partially because there's no text bubble, so it makes my life easier. But beyond that, I mean, I think just this scene with Han and with Enfy's Nest is so well put, and like you instantly understand everything that's going on here, even though no words are spoken. And I think that's something pretty difficult. Obviously, it's a little easier when you have the movie to reference, like you're not making this up on your own. But I think you understand everything that's happening between these characters without the need for words, and I think that's pretty amazing.
Exactly. Plus, like that, he makes that blue to sky and ocean really pop. Like the movie, those scenes look good, but I don't know, something about this panel here really makes it a lot more like attractive. It's just something really
almost
strong.
Has a watercolor look to it.
Exactly, especially like the softness of the clouds, and you can see with the Enfys Nest and Solo just like kind of different colorizations behind them. Just kind of subtle yet very solid things.
Yeah, and here we are with Jabba and Greedo. I mean, it's a really amazing way to, as Em put it, you've got Jabba kind of sitting there. He's center of the page, but it's the yellow on his belly that kind of pops out first, and it draws your eye to the center of the screen, and it kind of tells the story around that image, and so it takes a unique talent to be able to do that while still keeping it honest to a universe that is well traveled, well described, well drawn, and with a fandom that has every once in a while voices a very tiny displeasure when when things aren't what they normally like to see. So
Yeah.
uh
And one of the reasons, so this is from Galaxy's Edge, which Caleb touched on a bit earlier.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest, it's a very bizarre comic book. It's a 5-issue miniseries that kind of takes place on Batuu, because it's basically like 3 different timelines kind of interweaving with like, it's like all around Doc Ondor and like missions and like adventures he's gone on, and also people that have been around him that have done things, and then also the First Order, and then also some other like bounty hunters who are trying to steal stuff from his shop. It's very strange, but I would say inconsistently pretty cool. I'll put it at that. It like it has its moments, but like there are other times where it's like, I'm having a very tough time following this. I probably need to just like reread it in one go.
Yeah,
this-
like
yeah.
the plotting was definitely not the highlight of that, but
The art's great though.
it's great, and you also get to see a lot of like characters that you wouldn't normally like one artist wouldn't really be able to get to about years and years of service. Like I said, in this one series, Sliney got not only Greedo here, but he also got the draw
Aphra.
Dr. Aphra. He had to draw Hondo, Captain Hondo, which isn't even a comic character really, but like this is a tirade, but on the little side, we need Hondo in comics more.
We do. Yeah,
We
the
do.
we just
so-
need more
100%.
Hondo everywhere. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the reason
Yeah, give me more
I,
Hondo everywhere.
Right. Yeah, the reason I picked this panel is I thought it was so cool with like, we've seen Jabba's throne room, palace, whatever, several times, but seeing this image of Greedo, I don't think I've ever seen the camera pointed up from the Rancor pit. And I thought that was such a cool perspective.
Exactly. And after you just read through like the middle part of from a certain point of view, man, Greedo is just such a whipping boy. It's so sad.
Yeah.
Like last issue, I think I made a mistake. I said that Valance was the first time we saw a bounty hunter. Technically, that was Greedo. Greedo was the first bounty hunter we saw in canon. It's just we all forgot about him.
Yeah. So
Here's
obviously
Hondo.
had to feature Hondo. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
This
Yeah,
was-
I love the lighting in this one too. Like kind of orangey type of lighting. It feels very like Mos Eisley Cantina to me.
It
And-
definitely. I was definitely thinking that myself, as there's definitely some Han cantina scene vibes going on in that that shot with Hondo.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
It's interesting. It's a slightly wizened Hondo. He's much older than we were used. It's closer to the Rebels Hondo, who's a little bit older there. So it's kind of cool to see a slightly different take on the character from an art perspective.
So, obviously we see these panels and we comment on the panels, but we can't talk about art if we don't talk about covers. And he has Will has done a number of them, to say the least. Jacob's thrown up a couple of titles here, so I'm going to let you take this and kind of explain which titles which covers you've got selected here.
Yeah. So we got a Mace Windu from the Mace Windu miniseries. I think it was part of like the 40th anniversary of New Hope like cover collection. So absolutely, totally unrelated. You got Han Solo and Chewbacca. Obviously, no Mace Windu. But then we have the High Republic #3 with Marky and Rowe, which I have that cover. High Republic #2 with Lorna D, who a little bit more important now that she has her own audio drama coming out pretty soon. He did one of the covers for Galaxy's Edge. I believe this is issue #2. In addition, of course, to doing all the interior art. The War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha, which became a connecting cover with the rest of the War of the Bounty Hunters series. So I have the Alpha. I chose to not get the main series. And then he did a few of the variant covers for Jedi Fallen Order Dark Temple, which was a seer story with her master. So that was pretty cool. I love the Zepho planet level. Very annoying.
Flashbacks are occurring right now.
Suck.
Oh, what are you talking about? That was a great
no
level.
fast travel. Good lord. But the design, the aesthetic design of Zepho and the temples and all that's pretty sweet, and it's cool to see that get featured here, in a big way on that cover. So Wes kind of liked it. I don't know, Wes, you're crazy. I also can't say much though because I did 100% the game, which meant I spent a lot of time on Zepho getting every like secret. So yeah.
Oh yeah, you got to 100% that. You know, get all the ponchos.
How many times
I
did
do have every
Onga
poncho.
Bongo kill you? Almost said not
Oh.
Onga Bongo.
Too
Ogdo
many.
Bogdo.
Way
Ogdo
too many.
Bogdo.
Way too many.
Like when I was playing it, I knew the memes. I knew like the story getting into. I'm like, but I'm gonna do this.
The thing is,
45 minutes later, maybe next time.
he's
I'll get it next time.
The problem is, okay, first off, it was the pink poncho, which, you know, not my favorite. So really, I don't think it was even worth the fight. But the problem is, he was on the first level. So people were like,
yes,
oh, I'm going to take him out. You just come back. You come back and you just wreck that dude once you have like a decent health bar. It's not that hard of a fight. It's just the problem is everyone fights him at the beginning and, you know, gets wrecked. And then that's the meme because everyone's fought it.
Yeah, and also, did you know that you can pull out Ogdo Bogdo's tongue?
Yes.
With the Force.
Oh, yeah.
There is a trophy.
It took me forever to figure out.
I just did a thing where if you could jump above him, you can like get a single like attack on him that takes out half his health in one move. So if you could drop on him, literally.
Oh, Caleb's
that helps.
cheesing it. Okay, I see.
It's not cheesing. It's creative use of in-game
cool.
assets.
Does anyone have a favorite cover out of this bunch? I kind of grabbed them randomly, but
I really like the War of the Bounty Hunter, just because the colors work. You know, Boba Fett is bright but not too bright, and but at the same time the background is muted. So you've got Boba Fett like front and center. I personally like that cover as my favorite. Emma, which one were you going to choose?
Yeah, I was gonna pick the Galaxy's Edge one. There's something about the arrangement of the characters there that's really pleasing to the eye, I think, and the sort of the white lighting coming up from the bottom. Even though that definitely isn't like my favorite of his work, I would have to say, the cover is very, very gorgeous.
I would have to pick the High Republic Venture, the one with Martian Road there, just because it's like such a power pose, and it's not a character that we have a lot of, you know, art of. So seeing him there, you know, with his like a different look at his mask and his weaponry and like his whole get up, I'm always a fan of that one. Plus there's some really fun background details and all like that. You know, it's a great piece of art there.
Yeah, I'm gonna be lame and also say the Markian Row cover, partially because I bought it. But I bought it for a reason. I think it looks sweet. So yeah, I think that's probably my favorite out of the bunch.
Yeah, all of these are great. All of these have their own unique look and feel to them. So that's you know, those are some of his covers. And you know, as much as Sliney has been around the Star Wars universe, he's actually gotten to draw and be a part of some real notable events. And yes, I'm talking about the Rise of Kylo Ren. Just that entire book, you know, it's the origin of Kylo, and actually the first mention of the High Republic. You know, that is, had we known then, you know, how much we would love it now. You know, I think we were all excited about it, but I don't think we could have really, at the time that this comic was released, known how successful and how, you know, much we're dying to have more High Republic.
I'm gonna actually you here real quick. So okay, first of all, the origin of Kylo. Well, okay, the origin of Kylo is this comic. The origin of Ben Solo is Poe Dameron Annual number 2, I think, where you see him get born in a flashback. And then also, so this is the first.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
This is the first mention of the High Republic in the comics, but the first mention of the High Republic ever was Dooku Jedi Lost, which came out like in April, and this came out in December or January. I think January. I think it was issue 2 was the first mention, which would be January.
Yeah.
Well, I have another one though. Wasn't this the first appearance of the planet Elfrona from Light of the Jedi? Yeah. So there's a temple there, right?
There it is. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And there it is.
Which is, you know, the temple in
Yeah, so
Light of the
cool.
Jedi. Yeah.
He draws young Ben Solo really well. Oh, and by the way, it's the first appearance of Snowcat.
Yes,
Mm.
I had to
Yes.
get this in here. We got Snowcat.
It's the most important thing he's done in his career. You know?
There's been nothing else that he has done that is more
Nothing else
memorable
even on
than
this
Snowcat.
page. Yeah, I mean the location not notable at all. Just Snowcat.
Exactly. Yes. Shame that they never reused this location.
Yes.
Read Into the Dark. Whatever. No, unrelated.
Yeah. Funny how there's plants there. I don't know.
Yeah.
It does
He
look
looks
pretty.
like he looks like a druid in World of Warcraft in this scene, you know?
Man, I remember when this comic first came out, the Living Force had a field day with this
Yes.
panel. It was so funny.
It's I would say the number 2 most talked about moment in all of Star Wars comic lore, right behind Naked Palps. I mean, nothing is.
You're not wrong.
No, nothing is going to dethrone Naked Palps. But Snoke does a hell of a time trying to dethrone him.
We can only pray in our lifetime, so nothing will ever top that.
So also something that we haven't mentioned yet. I mean, and it's not nearly as important as Snowcat. This title actually also had the first appearance of Avar Kriss in a comic book. I believe she was in the Holocron. Yes, there she is right there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. So when I first saw the cover for Light of the Jedi, I was like, oh, why does that woman look familiar? And then it was like slow realization. And then somebody said, oh, it's the lady from the Holocron. I was like, what? This is nuts. So cool. I love how it's just they were planting seeds for so long and we didn't even know. And it must have been hard for Will Sliney to sort of draw Avar. He'd probably been starting to work on it or seeing some concepts, but at the same time, it's kind of a lot of pressure to have one of the main characters in a project that you've not even announced yet and have to throw her in secretly. So it's very cool.
Yeah, set the entire tone for one of these like flagship characters here.
Yeah, the hero of Hetzal. Put some respect on her name. But so this is not directly related to the High Republic, but I gotta say, the Rise of Kylo Ren also on the same train of handsome villains.
Yeah,
we got
as you were flipping through those,
we got Ren.
Thought that too.
Not to be confused with Kylo Ren or the Knights of Ren, just Ren.
Or Kybo Ren from the Droids cartoon.
Ren. Yeah, how could I forget?
And that helmet that could very easily pass as a Markion Row helmet there as well.
If it was just a storm on the front instead of whatever that weird scribbly like glyph is, yeah, I could see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Will Sliney, he does a good job drawing those handsome villains.
Another strong jaw there, just like Han Solo from
77. Maybe they're related.
So his other main piece of work, Galaxy's Edge, it really gave him, we kind of touched on this a bit before, but it really allowed him to draw some more varied Star Wars characters. You've got Hondo, you got Dr. Aphra, you've got Greedo. You got to see some characters that, especially in Hondo and Greedo, that just didn't get to we didn't really get to see. And even this interpretation of Aphra is a very it's something that is different than what she's normally depicted as in her own books.
Yeah, for sure. She definitely has her own style in each of the series. Like in the current 2020 series right now, she definitely has a more distinct style. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how I would describe it. Kind of.
The biggest thing for me that I noticed especially with the transition from her 2016 series to her 2020 series is her eyes are much more like defined as being hooded, which obviously she's like Southeast Asian more or less in Star Wars. So, but yeah, it's just a slightly different interpretation of her.
Like, yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell when different artists are drawing her, and I don't know. I think Will Sliney's sort of interpretation of her here is certainly one of the more realistic ones in terms of like being photoreal, or obviously we've never seen her like on screen. Fingers crossed we do someday, but this is definitely what I imagine her to sort of look more like, just because of his sort of more realistic style.
Absolutely. And that's one of the strengths of Dr. Aphra kind of at the moment is that every artist can kind of differently interpret how her face looks, what she's, kind of the details of her clothing, and they can kind of bring a lot of their own style to it. Meanwhile, with characters like Luke and Han, it's a lot harder to, stylize them without.
We all know what Harrison Ford looks like. You can't really mess with that too much.
Like Carrie Fisher has a lot of photographs out there. There's no excuse to mess that up.
Right. Well, and I think it goes even farther that the greater fandom won't allow for Han Solo to not look like some interpretation of Harrison Ford anymore. Whereas with Aphra, until we get that live action, we can there's a little bit more give of, okay, she looks a little bit different in 2016 compared to 2020, or she looks a little bit different in 2020 than she does in Sliney's art here. But that's okay because we don't have a live action official look to her yet. So the fandom, greater fandom, not the UTD fandom, because the UTD fandom is amazing, doesn't get to complain, as much.
Exactly.
That's something that's pretty complicated with Saw Gerrera, who is a character who is originally animated in the Clone Wars and has had so many different interpretations of that character.
Right.
But then you had the live action Forrest Whitaker version, which kind of should set it in stone, but then Rebels looks like Forrest Whitaker, and then Bad Batch looks like the Clone Wars, which does not look like Forrest Whitaker, and then there's the Jedi Fallen Order version of him, so it's kind of been a little inconsistent and can be a bit of a problem. So for at least for now, we got a little freedom, but it'll be interesting if we ever see Aphra in live action, how they'll handle that.
Yeah, for sure. And another character, I mean, we've got Hondo pulled up on the screen right now. Like you guys have said, I'm not an artist. I don't think, none of us could possibly draw anything like this. But I imagine that drawing an alien like Hondo must be really tough. I mean, he does have that like human sort of body shape, but his face, I mean, like he's got those like horn things coming out of his chin. I imagine that that's pretty hard to do, and he did it so well. Like I don't even need to see any words or any sort of description of what this is from. I know that's Hondo, and
we
that's
know
pretty
he's
impressive.
swindling someone right now.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
He has the best play ever. Yes, that was terrible, Hondo.
What was
terrible?
Moving
right on.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to go around the room and see if we have any if any, what your favorite piece of Will Sliney art is. It can be a book, it can be a panel. I'm gonna remove Snowcat from the options here because we can't just default to that. But yeah, other than Snowcat, which we all understand is a true piece of art and a historic piece of Star Wars literature. Let's go around and let's see if everybody is their favorite piece of work from Will Sliney. And I'm going to start with Jacob. What's your favorite?
I mean, so obviously I think just like the Rise of Kylo Ren as a whole, fantastic and probably the best thing he's done. I wanted to pull up this picture just because we got any Reylo fans out here. You're welcome. I know how much of a splash this made on Twitter when this panel came out with like Kylo or Ben Solo when he first goes like with his all black outfit. And I mean, if I ever had long hair again, like this would be like a grade A cosplay, something I would love to do because it's easy. Well, it's not easy. Cosplay is hard, and I cannot do it. But this is like this seems attainable. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean the way he does Ben Solo's face is like it's so good. Like that's how I imagine a teenage-ish Adam Driver for sure.
Yes,
good old emo Ben. If mine's would probably also be from Kylo Ren. I don't know if you have it pulled up, but it's the lightsaber fight and kind of the big duel at the end of issue 4. There's some like really fun dynamic action there. Kind of a subtle thing into one of Jedi's lightsaber has a really weird like geographical like triangle pattern.
It's like it has like dodecahedron or not.
It's like a dodecahedron sort of style, and like lightsaber design is such a cool like little niche sort of thing that him being like that, him coming up with that design and being a kind of an important thing throughout that series, like the action the falling action of that whole last bit there, really great. Some really dynamic parts there.
Yeah.
Emma, what
Yeah,
about you?
So I think I want to say Rise of Kylo Ren too, but
We're all just gonna say it.
it's easy to admit that is some of his best work. However, Jacob, sorry, I believe you do have this in the slideshow from the Age of Rebellion, Princess Leia.
Yes, I pulled this up because it was one of your art of the week. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna drop that one in there.
It's Leia. Let's see, Bosk and Bausch and Lando here. I don't know. The angle of this is just so amazing. You can really, I feel like Bosk is about to like drop down on me, and it's terrifying.
He's about to Mario stomp you.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I don't know, the way that he drew Lando's face, like he does a very good Lando. He did a great young Lando in the Solo series. He does a great Return of the Jedi era Lando here. And I love these few pages that he drew, even though he didn't do the whole issue. I believe he did like 6 pages. Really solid stuff. And yeah, this is my art of the week 1 week back for a solid reason.
Very solid pick, and I appreciate the fact that you went differently, because I wasn't gonna go differently. I was also gonna say the Rise of Kylo Ren, but more specifically, anytime he is fighting, especially early on in the series when he is fighting or not necessarily fighting, but when his interactions with Ty and Vo are, I appreciate the ability to really. I see the pain in Ben Solo's face anytime he is in a panel with those two characters, and to see that in a comic book like that is just, it's a still image. So to be able to portray that in a way that is so easy to be seen and so memorable, I think is something that really, I loved Caleb's, the scene that Caleb picked. As well, that was my number 1 pick. But like I said, any other time that he's fighting with his 2 former classmates,
friends,
it was friends, classmates, that was some really memorable time.
You got a real like human element to a lot of it, if to coin a phrase there.
So yes, like I said, this is Will Sliney has been able to do quite a bit in the Star Wars universe, and hopefully we will be seeing his work and some more, possibly even with the High Republic.
Absolutely. So, with the way he's going, like he'll probably be doing all the Star Wars art, moving forward for the next like 3 years, and that's not a bad proposition at all.
Yes, and he is I didn't grab his social handles to put in the show notes, but he is fairly active on social.
Twitter's just like at Will Sliney. I think that's it.
I think so, and I believe his Instagram is also something close to that.
And twitch.tv/Will Sliney. I know we mentioned that earlier.
Yes, so I highly encourage you. Like I said, we all love Cavan Scott. We all love Claudia Gray and all of the authors of the High Republic. But make sure we spend some time supporting these artists, because these artists aren't as easily known as some of the writers. So go support their channels. Go support. Go learn how to draw some comic characters on his Twitch channel, because, like I said, he is an entertaining guy. And he is definitely an inspiring person to watch if you are an aspiring comic artist or any artist for that matter. So
I totally forgot he got a TV show. I can't believe
what? Whoa, what?
Yeah, this is kind of important.
Yeah.
On Sky Kids, which is like a UK like TV. He's got like a Draw with Kids, like teaching kids how to draw all those characters, like all the things we're talking about, just on television.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I remember like in like elementary school, like there was a few different like shows we watched in art class, which were like old VHS tapes of like people teaching you how to draw. It was not Bob Ross, but a few different like ones like that. And it seems like that's what this is, which is pretty sweet. So there we go. I was just scrolling through his Twitter and I saw this. I'm like, oh yeah, we probably should mention that.
That's very cool. I wonder if he'll do any Star Wars characters there.
I guess we'll have to watch
Can
and
only
find
hope.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And before we end the show this week, I do have one special announcement for next week's show. I'm not going to tell you what the topic is yet. You're gonna have to tune in for that. But we have such a deep bench here at UTini that we are going to have another guest next week. So be sure to tune in next week so you can see which one of our amazing creators and content creators guests with us next week. But until then, that's going to do it for this week's episode of The Cosmic Force. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, or right here on YouTube, where you can tune in every Wednesday at 8 p.m. to hear us live. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review on any of those platforms, especially on the podcast platforms. It really helps new listeners find the show, and we always appreciate all of your support. Be sure to visit utini.com for reviews, articles, and news for the entire expanded universe. We also encourage you to join our Utini Discord community by going to utini.com/Discord. If you'd like to help support the show, you can find us on patreon.com/Utini and start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. A special thank you to OK Undar, Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, as well as Kyle Hickman, Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command for their continued amazing support. You can tweet the show at Cosmic Force Show or at each of our hosts individually. I'm at Ty Rags, Emma is at Irma Jedi 26, Caleb is at Caleb Lamanek, and Jacob is at Jacob Bosch. Thank you again to my fellow hosts, Emma, Caleb, and Jacob. Thank you for all of you in the chat tuning in live with us. And thank you wherever and whenever you are listening to us. We truly appreciate it. And until next week, may the Force be with you.